of the NFL and their new jerseys. Look at this rookie camp. And yes, we did set it up like actual campsites. You see the Packers there, the Seahawks, the Cowboys, so many teams, the Eagles as well, who have begun their rookie camps. We're going to check in on all of them, get the latest from there as we welcome you into NFL Live. So glad that you are with us here. Jeremy Fowler joins us. He is my suit twin today. We planned this. We didn't really, but
very much think alike.
Exactly. Nothing like a good gray suit. Jeremy's got a lot of news, insights. We got Tim Hasselbeck, Damian Woody with us throughout, and Jordan Reed is going to join us for his way too early 2026 mock draft, but I got to say it's never too early for that. Let's begin, though, in Green Bay. We're going to hear from rookie wideout Matthew Golden. Here's what he told Jordan Love when he reached out.
He texted me literally right after I got drafted, told me it's time to go to work, congratulated me, and just told me, it's time to work, come here and work.
What did you have to say to him? What did you have to say to him?
Oh, I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. I've been waiting for this moment my whole life, and to be here, like I said, I'm gonna be present, but I'm gonna let my presence be known. I'm gonna come in here and compete.
He's so much fun. He was great in front of that home crowd at the draft in Green Bay as we welcome in Rob Demovsky, of course, our Packers reporter who was there today. Rob, how do the Packers plan to use Golden?
Laura, I'm sure you remember Matt LaFleur saying right after they picked Golden that he FaceTimed Jordan Love, and Jordan Love joked that I've got to get that arm loosened up to throw those deep balls to Golden's 4.29 second speed. But in all seriousness, what the Packers love about Golden is his versatility. They think he's more than just a deep threat receiver. Now, I asked LaFleur today, as rookie minicamp started, if he's already started to put things into the offense for Golden. And he said, while he hasn't done that, he did during the evaluation process tell general manager Brian Windhorst, this is how I envision using him. Obviously, Windhorst must have liked what he heard because he went ahead and drafted him. But LaFleur said one other thing. He goes, I know that there's going to be something positive that pops up that we're going to see that we didn't see on tape that we'll be able to use with Golden. And he's going to start that process here at rookie minicamp when they hit the practice field tomorrow. Now, one note, Laura, about a veteran, the ongoing saga between the Packers and Jaire Alexander. They're all pro cornerback. Is he going to play here? Is he going to get cut? Is he going to get traded? LaFleur did say that Alexander was not here this week for the voluntary in-person team activities. That's interesting to note because Alexander did take part last week when they did things virtually. They kept the players away because of all the stuff around here with the draft and logistically. So Alexander was part of the virtual stuff but was not here in person this week.
Yeah, really interesting to keep an eye on. Jeremy Fowler has an update on that in just a bit. And I must say, Rob, Lambeau's looking gorgeous today, okay, as you well know. All right, the Packers have done their best to put solid pass catchers around Jordan Love over the last 4 drafts. They've taken 7 pass catchers in the first 3 rounds, 5 wide receivers and 2 tight ends. However, Matthew Golden is the first receiver they've drafted in the first round since 2002, and it's the first time they've taken 2 wide receivers in the first 3 rounds in the common draft era. Somebody's going to say, Aaron Rodgers, where was that when I was here? Anyway, Tim, a lot of receivers for Jordan Love. What do you think, though, specifically about the addition of Matthew Golden?
I think it's great, because he's super talented. I mean, just watch it, even the highlights that we were playing there. You see his speed, and I do think he's, more versatile, as Rob Demovsky was, kind of referring in terms of the optimism, in Green Bay of what type of player he can be. And I would say, I actually think Green Bay has had a pretty good receiving core, especially when you factor in, their tight ends and the way that they've played. And so, to me, it really wasn't this glaring area of need, other than to say some of these young, productive wide receivers that they've had, they've been injured. And so because of that, I think, getting a dynamic player who's young, kind of build, into the room, I think should be really exciting for Packers fans. And so, look, they did that, but they also did other things. They still, addressed the offensive line in the 2nd and 7th round. Like, there are other things that they need to do, but I do believe the continuity in Green Bay and what they're building around Jordan Love, look, I think gives you a lot of optimism for how they're going to fare in the division.
Yeah, listen, Tim brings up a lot of good points. That receiving core is going to be one of the best, one of the more young and dynamic receiving cores in the league. I think defensively, they've continued to add pieces there, and I think that defense needs to continue to elevate. But ultimately, this falls on Jordan Love. And when you talk about Jordan Love, you're talking about a guy who's immensely talented. Sometimes can be reckless with the football. And I think if Green Bay ultimately wants to go to where they want to go and vie for a championship and win that NFC North, I think Jordan Love has to play more consistently. No one has ever questioned the talent that he has, but he just needs to be more consistent. If he can do that with all the pieces that's surrounding Jordan Love, this Green Bay Packers team is as good as anyone.
Yeah, D-Wood, the Packers and Jordan Love got help with drafting Matthew Golden in the first round, breaking serious precedent. Hadn't taken a wide receiver since Javon Walker in 2002. Why did they do that? One team source told me he was, quote, too good to pass up, because I was told Golden in the process figured he would be in that sort of 10 to 22 range, as high as the Cowboys number 12. He was considered one of the finalists among the teams that they were shaking out. So he had a top 30 visit with the team, everything.
Yeah, and lucky for Jordan Love. I think everyone's going to love what Matthew Golden brings to the table. Now, we promised Jeremy an update on Jaire Alexander. You heard what Rob Domofsky said. What are you hearing about him right now?
Yeah, Laura, so I was told Alexander and his camp never really expected to be traded, at least up to this point, because in early March around free agency, the team and the players started discussing some options, like, hey, let's leave the lines of communication open. If we can find a trade that makes sense for the team, we'll do that. So the player talked to some teams, the team talked to some opposing teams to see what the market value would be. A lot of those teams had interest, but they wanted to wait until after the draft. And now they're through the draft. There still isn't a lot of momentum for any sort of deal for Alexander, who, despite being a top 10 cornerback in the league for a long time, is due $17.5 million. Durability is a major issue. So the common sense here might just be that both sides can talk about a new reworked package maybe. Yeah. Perhaps the Packers can get some salary cap help, get that number down a little bit if Alexander would be willing to do that. Whether he is or not is remains to be seen.
Again, Rob Domofsky reporting that he was there for virtual meetings that the team had last week during the draft, and then has not been here with the voluntary workouts. We'll keep an eye on that. All right, to our next rookie camp going on today. That's in Philly. The defending champs bolstered their defense with Jahad Campbell and 5 other defenders who are all out on the practice field today. Pretty cool. The Eagles entered the 2025 season looking to become the 10th team ever to repeat as Super Bowl champs. Overall, there have been 16 instances of a team returning to the Super Bowl the season after winning it. The Eagles will have to get back there without their offensive coordinator from last season, of course, Kellen Moore. Damian, Howie Roseman keeps rebuilding the Eagles team in the draft. Is that enough, though, for them to repeat? Because they have lost a lot of guys, too, in free agency and otherwise.
Yeah, listen, some of those guys have graduated from the program, but the one thing that Howie Roseman has always done is a master at restocking. Sometimes with Howie Roseman, he's zigging while everyone is zagging. So he goes out here in the first round, he gets Jahad Campbell, the linebacker out of Alabama, and you're talking about, a guy who's just, ultra athletic, fast, comes downhill, and then all the other picks that they added on the defensive side of the football. So, yes, while they've lost some players on the defensive side, but they continue to restock and retool. And the one thing about this Philadelphia Eagles team, they're strong in all the right places that you need to win football games. They're strong in the trenches. They got elite players on the perimeter, and obviously we know the Super Bowl MVP and Jalen Hurts. So